All right. Welcome, Doug, to Office
Hi,
Slash
Todd.
Friday. How are you?
Uh, Battling a cold,
Yeah.
but I'm here, so if I mute, that's why.
I feel like we're just in the dark grayness of winter. Everyone's just kind of not having is ready for spring at this point.
Yeah, I'm done with the silver white winter. I could take the melt into spring portion of things, right? I would be all about that.
Totally.
Um, all right, well, so you're up first. I only got one community thing before we get going. Small reminder, 365 user group coming up Monday in Minneapolis. You got any community stuff before we roll into topics or
I
no?
was actually remiss. We just had our SharePoint Saturday last weekend to much success here at the MTC. We did it at the MTC this year. So
Oh, nice.
yeah, the event went great. A lot of great speakers, a lot of great attendees, and it was aside from a late lunch, apparently, it was great.
Those are fun. The one in Mini is massive, right?
It's
It moved
huge.
to a community college. It's got like 500, 600 people attend it.
Yeah.
Multi tracks, multi sessions. It's
You guys
great.
have got to be one of the biggest in the country, I would imagine.
I think outside of Seattle, yeah. Just an awesome community of business users and tech users and the systems integrator and vendors who support it. Love, 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 love the community. And when Cortex ships, that community is going to get a big boost as far as content sessions and attention. So I love that.
Awesome. So cool. Well, Doug, I'm pretty light this week, but I have a really cool one here to talk about off the top, which is probably something that the citizen developer hasn't maybe heard of before, but they will know they need it after this blog post. So once you're building an application, whether you're a citizen developer or enterprise developer, you need to understand how that thing is being used, who's using it, how many people, what features of this application are using it, are they getting errors, right? These are all the things we call monitoring and logging. There is a capability that's been around in Azure for some time called Application Insights that interrogates all kinds of application logs and telemetry that's being emitted out of applications through custom code to build up a story of how the application is being used, what kind of errors and those kinds of things. Even to the point where you can see like the user flows, like who's going.
Yeah, isn't this the one where I've seen the visuals of people getting almost like seeing confusion, where people go this way and then they go that way,
right?
Like for insights, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So if you want to go full screen on this, for example, here is an example of a user flow based on telemetry that's being emitted from an application. And so you can see that someone starts on a dashboard screen, then most people go to a select colleague screen, go to a kudos screen, and you can see kind of where they're going. You can see they're going back and forth. So maybe this could surface up some confusion about how to navigate to a certain screen, or maybe you're seeing that people are avoiding a new screen altogether, and maybe you need to call that out a little more and call that to people's attention.
That is pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's very, very cool.
So what do you got to do to turn it on?
So first and foremost, you need an application insights resource inside of Azure. So depending on who you are in your organization, that may require some interfacing with your Azure administration team. But getting this set up and operationalized from a Power Platform perspective is really, I think, a good idea. And all you really need to do is each application insights resource inside of Azure has this instrumentation key. And so that's the connection between your Power App and your application insights, which will give you all this cool stuff like this. So really, that's all you need to do. And as far as getting the basics going, but you can also add custom logs, right? So if you want to trace whenever a screen loads and you want to track certain information about what screen, what control, who it is, you can you can choose the types of data that you want to track into your application insights.
Oh, wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I guess my initial, warning on that is, GDPR, making sure that you understand what you're tracking and what you're storing. But if you're storing any personal information, but that's about it. But you can trace whatever you want, whatever contextual information that will be useful for you to understand how people are using your application. You can trace into your application insights by connecting it through that telemetry ID that I talked about up front. And you can, if you really want to, you can get some really interesting queries going where you're asking for specific users, specific screens, grouping by whatever. So if you know, it has its own language that you query App Insights with, and then you can actually publish this out to like a Power BI report. So you can actually,
I sincerely hope they release this internally because, as you know, I am the custodian of a fairly significant solution for our organization, and I would love this data.
Well, Doug, I would be surprised if you didn't have this already. You'll have to go check it out.
I am going to go. You gave me something. I don't know about the audience, but you got me something. So thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, cool. No worries. So that's it. Go check that out. I think this is a really great, I mean, the Power Platform is just maturing, and really moving into an enterprise development platform built by citizen developers. So it's pretty exciting. This one is I have another Power Apps Common Data Service thing where, not too long ago we introduced the image data type inside of the CDS, and now being able to pull those images from the CDS into your Power App is now a thing. So you can see here I've got a product and a couple images, image 1, image 2, that are stored actually in the CDS, so curated in a single repository, single space, and then being surfaced up through Canvas apps inside of Power Apps. So I thought that was pretty cool.
It's very cool.
Again, kind of a maturity thing. And then I just have one final, I guess, community thing. Upcoming next month, March 20th. This seems really soon to be doing a call for speakers now, but I think that's probably okay. So on March 20th, there'll be a Power Platform online conference. So every year, this is really because we've done. I think this will be the 3rd year.
You and I were blown away year 1 by how many people attended.
Yeah.
So
it's pretty crazy. So if you think you have the stuff, right, you can submit a session, and the call for speakers close on February 10th. And to give you an idea, here's the types of sessions that we're looking for: Power Apps, Power BI, Power Automate, Power Virtual Agents, and the AI Builder. So 28 minutes, pretty straightforward what they're looking for. I think that'd be pretty cool if one of our listeners submitted and got a talk. But if you have something to talk about, I think this would be a pretty cool thing to do.
Awesome.
But, yeah, that's all I got. But definitely mark your calendars for March the 20th. And it looks like, well, I'm not seeing what time it's going to be, but I'm sure we'll talk about this again pretty soon to let you know what time of day to tune in and where. But
awesome.
Yeah. All right. Well, Doug, I told you I didn't have a lot. I'm going to hand it over to you, sir.
Awesome. I have a few good ones.
All right.
So the first one is, I don't know if you saw that we released the eDiscovery for Modern Collaboration Framework. Let's go full screen on this one for a minute because there's some really good stuff in here. So first was the team is delighted to announce that legal hold on Teams private channel messages is now rolling out.
Ooh.
And I do believe they are delighted because if you're a regulated industry customer who needs that, that's a big deal. On top of it,
specifically for private channels, right?
Private channel messages, yep. For on top of it, right? And so they have, hey, how to place a Teams user on hold and the rest of the stuff. Also, conversation reconstruction is now available today. So before you'd have these isolated components, but now they can actually do conversation reconstruction around. There's a great example of that in there, so go check that one out. On top of it.
So is that basically where each little blurb is its own thing, and now I can piece them back together to get context? Is that?
Yeah. So I can reestablish the thread of the conversation, right? Whereas depending on how those conversations were archived, you might have the asset sort of sharded across different people's components, and this allows the reconstruction view for that.
Makes sense.
eDisco and Yammer. On top of it, so awesome. On top of that, so if you'll notice, you've now got a few more things, and if you'll notice around your search, look at the breadth of things you're starting to get on top of there, right?
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So you should be checking out some of that, including some third-party stuff. So if you haven't looked at that in a while, there's also some extended visibility into the case content. So they're releasing tenant-level reports. For aggregation and custodians, and they're also releasing a customizable dashboard that lets you get reporting on discovery data more visually. So before we had counts, whatever it is, so now we're basically bringing Power BI into the fold, for lack of a better term, as an embedded service component. I haven't seen raw data connectors to it yet, so I don't know. I would think not quite yet, but this is pretty compelling visualization and and roll-ups and stuff on top of it. You get some customization around on top of it with some links on top of that. And so basically a nice evolution of the eDiscovery tool set inside of Office 365 with private channel, reconstruction, data visualization, just continuing to move that regulatory stack, compliancy stack forward rather significantly, in my opinion.
Wonderful. Okay.
Yeah.
Looks
So it's a real thing you got to do. And the easier it is, the nicer it looks, and the better you can filter and sort and do those things, the better off we all are.
Yep.
So yeah, for a while, all the compliance scores and security score, all the new scores actually had better looking result sets, reports, and roll-ups than the eDisco discovery production. And eDisco is a work stream that gets a lot of work. And so I think this is a welcome change from my perspective because I came from that industry, right? So I was feeling like, man, are we just going to leave these people with the view that looks like,
2012?
Maybe a little earlier. Yeah.
Oh, all right.
Yeah. So it was pretty bad. It was like the old Exchange admin console with the little micro fonts and everything, So
UX matters.
It does. It does. It leads to, back to your point about App Insights, it leads to discovery and findability. And so now they can do that kind of instrumentation here and say, are people using these things? Which ones are they using? That kind of data-driven user alignment is super good. All right. Next up isn't in case you missed it. And I did miss this. Did you ever pay attention to the data visualizer in Excel?
Maybe let's see what it is, and maybe.
Okay, so you go out and you do this add-in for out there. They have the data visualizer for Visio for Excel. And so what happens on this thing? Let's go full screen on the little animation here on top of it. And what it'll essentially let you do is you can pick from different visualization types, and you point it at like a table in Excel, and it'll then produce an actual Visio flowchart of either the stages of that project, the organizational chart behind like a project list or something else.
No, I had not seen this one.
So I completely missed this. It rolled sometime back in November around and on top of it, but it's the Visio data visualizer for Excel. So, and in case you missed it, courtesy of Office Flash Friday, I was a little blown away by how clean that you can get. Like, look at this one. It's a pretty normal, let's cut back full screen for a second, right? So it's a pretty normal example of, you make a little grid of like who's going to be doing what, and then it'll produce you a nice little hierarchy chart.
That is awesome.
Wow, that was really cool.
I actually have something I can immediately use this for.
Yeah, so there you go. So one of my, in case you missed it, for on top of it. My last one is a security story. Did you get a chance to read Ghost in the Shell at all? The security team?
No.
Okay, so this is an article, and we'll post it up and have on top of it, that talks about how to investigation and remediation of web shell attacks, which is an emerging attack vector on top of it. People will essentially instantiate web shells and then do automation on top of them. And they have like a mapping against the MITRE attack framework. So if you're a MITRE-driven shop, you can go through that stuff. But essentially how they go ahead and come in, reconnaissance, execute against it if you have a attack chain. So they go through and they map it all out and talk about the different kind of things that are doing, right? And how they do blend-ins and integrations with things to mask and hide on top of it, how they invoke all the JavaScript framework or PHP frameworks in order to do that stuff, right?
Cool, yeah.
So how they actually break down like Krypton using the C# within an ASP.NET page. So let's cut full screen on this one for a minute. So there's a whole lot of examples on that that we want to go down. And then it essentially says, all right, unfortunately, how often does this happen? Microsoft Defender ATP detects an average of 77,000 web shells and related artifacts on an average of 46,000 distinct machines, okay? So in other words, for a given population of 46,000 distinct machines, there's 77. So do some math on that. It's not good. It's on a scale of 1 to 10, it's not good. Wow. So let's go back to full screen for one other flow on top of this. So then what's the answer? How do you help with this? Well, if you're an E5 customer in particular, ME5, Defender ATP. So it'll actually enumerate the possible web shell connections or the IIS web shell and do the exact thing. It actually has the exact alert process tree tracker from within it, what all the events of concern are and everything else, right? And so then you can harden systems against web shells, but you can also enumerate and protect. All right, so we can cut back. So this is a really, really big example of automated intelligence and breadth coming to defend against common attack vectors. You still have some responsibility because not every shell activity might be malicious, right? But it's certainly you should get to a point where you're authorizing what's going on and everything else should be bad and stopped and remediated. This one up top, where they go through the attack chain, is a particularly vicious story because this customer had Exchange on-prem.
Yeah.
And they went in and actually injected companion backdoor DLLs as custom extension to the OA instance within the Exchange on-prem environment.
Wow, that's pretty intense.
Yeah, it's an awesome. I mean, if you're just looking at it with popcorn from an attack observation standpoint, it's a killer attack.
Yeah.
But it sucks if it's you. And right. And given the volumetric report in the data area of this report, I think it's something that people should be a little more aware of and paying more attention to. So what's the lesson here? Turn on all of your signal intelligence and your integration. Get your data going the way it should go. Make sure that you're integrated into your SIM tools, Sentinel preferred, from business process flow and integration. And remember that many hands make light work. So you want to have these security operational workflows go out to the right people to remediate those things and come back. If you're an IT infrastructure person, it's not about waiting for the security team to do something. It's about an operational partnership between yourself and security to help secure, mitigate, and control the estate that you present. So the better your tooling supports security, operational, and business workflows between the operations, development operations, and the security team, the better off you are. So if you are a walled silo shop of there's the security, here's the operation, DevOps attempted to collapse the barriers, right? Talk about Donovan Brown's thing,
Yep.
Like to collapse the barriers and the lack of trust between and to structure the process and testing between development and operations. We need to do that same work to break down the barriers between security and our operations team. So start building workflows, integrate the tools you have, and for crying out loud, turn on and deploy Defender ATP.
Yep, that's a good set of prescriptive guidance, Doug.
Yeah, I mean, strategically solve these holistic organizational problems, right? Tactically, please go turn this on. I cannot tell you how much you'll find when you turn on Defender ATP, the Azure ATP, the 365 ATP. I just had a customer in this week who they had another link rewriting surface, right, for email inbound.
Okay.
And they're like, well, we're not going to turn on they owned a 365 AT, but they had something else for link rewrites. I'm like, what about things that are injected into documents to actual Teams messages? That's only internet facing. What about peer-to-peer malicious links to get handed around? Like, you're not doing any link safing within, because it's only for internet ingress and egress that get protected, right? So look at your estate and turn on your entitlements. The ATPs are probably my biggest focus area, followed by MCAS, and then proper signal integration into your SIM. So go get it done.
Okay, that's awesome. Yeah,
that's it for this week. So
I've seen some people turn this stuff on, and initially just it's pretty eye-opening and sometimes terrifying.
Well, I mean, back when we were in Minneapolis, we had a customer following along. We were teaching a lesson, and we found live compromised sessions, right, on top of it. And then we had to go into a hypothetical, how do you mitigate these things? How do you kick people out and suspend? There's some people don't know how to do the session kickouts to get people kicked out. They haven't programmatically built that in, or the help desk doesn't have a right to go do it when they need to. So you really have to think about your security operational processes. In the event, how are you going to go ahead and remediate and get things back to good, right?
Yep.
Because my wife's in studying for her nursing as her second career, and so there's that concept of homeostasis, the return of you to your normal state, right? Which I absolutely love that concept. Never came to me. I never studied that side of medicine before her world kind of collided with mine, but I love that concept of returning you back to normalcy, right?
Yep.
To be a healthy person who can go forward in life. Well, your technology needs that same level of technostasis, right? You got to get it back to good, and that's really what we're trying to do with some of these technologies: prevent it from happening, or have an authoritative way to remediate it and get it back, so you know what changed. Otherwise, you're going to be in a forensically unknown state as to what happened if you don't have this level of data and visibility. So it's why we like this, why we like the desktop analytics from Microsoft Endpoint Manager we showed last week. This is why we like you getting all these signals into an integrated data estate, because data has gravity, yes?
Yes, absolutely.
Right? You've taught me that as long as I've known you. All this security and activity data coming together into a single ecosystem along with other ingress data from critical systems yields an amazing security and operational outcome. And that's what we're trying to have for our customers, that amazing security and operational outcome. So please, 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 please turn these things on, integrate them into your end-to-end security processes. End of somewhat cold-driven security rant for this month.
All right. Well, Doug, I think we're going to have a few minutes to get back to flow.
Yeah.
I hope
9 minutes early. Thanks,
I
man.
hope you see some sunshine soon. I think just the whole country's ready for get these clouds out of here and get to spring. But yeah, hope you feel better and hope everyone has a great weekend.
Thanks. Same to everyone out there. And if you're, yeah, hopefully it's sunny wherever you are. And if not, hopefully it comes up soon. We'll be back on the air next week. Yes.
Yes, sir.
I believe we're both here. Nothing going on that I'm aware of. So we'll see you all next week for another Office Flash Friday. Take care.